right, folks. We are back live in studio from Comanche Rose Ranch. This is the Defiance Daily Show. We have special guest Stewart Rhodes with us. Did a little mic testing there, folks. Appreciate everybody in the comments who's making some mentions on some of the audio here. We're kind of scrambling with the mobile unit today, but really appreciate the insight. It's very helpful. Let's start here. Stewart, you were getting into some of these shenanigans with the FBI, and I'm of the opinion too. I don't know, especially with regard to these Epstein files, and we'll go through this case and what had happened yesterday. I am not caught up with the latest news, but yesterday was I think it was a shot of confidence for a lot of us. You're very hopeful, but I also think you got to set realistic expectations on what to expect from Epstein's case, given that how many years has passed now since his death.
It'd be like throwing the doors open on what's left of the JFK files, and you're going to find like one little file left in the vault.
Yeah,
it's like Geraldo finding the vault, right? You open the doors, nothing there.
Right. And then at the same time too, I do understand the aspect of it. Well, based on what we know is potentially on those CD-ROMs and the DVDs, I don't know that you want that out in the public if you're gonna, as far as this kids getting raped and all this kind of, it's pretty awful stuff.
No, I want the people that did it to be held accountable.
That's all it is. That's really what it comes down to.
I'm on the side of just full disclosure, so that happens.
Yeah, and then really, it's just we need the names in whatever countries operated out of this blackmail scheme, because we do know intelligence agencies were involved. Would you agree with that?
The Five Eyes.
The Five Eyes, yeah.
Right.
MI6, CIA. Would you say Mossad?
Yep.
Mossad's definitely one of the big ones in there.
Yeah.
But you're watching the Defiance Daily Show. Stewart, you were kicking off a story you had just mentioned. Can you pick up where you left off there?
Yeah, so I was talking about how the goal, of course, was to get President Trump, and so to create any connection between him and people entering the building. That's what they tried to do. So that's why they pressured. Only Oath Keepers and Proud Boys were charged with seditious conspiracy, because they wanted to use our two groups as like the scapegoats for J6, the poster boys. Like, if this was the real attack, these men conspired. And that's why they showed a video of Enrique Tarrio and I. Well, actually, no, they didn't show the video. They showed a still photo. So Enrique Tarrio and I never met before physically. On the night of the 5th, I'm in D.C. to do security. The Proud Boys are there also. Enrique Tarrio had been kicked out of D.C. because he had burned a Black Lives Matter flag, and a judge ordered him to be excluded from D.C. So he's on his way out. And we were there to protect Bianca Gracia's Latinos for Trump event. It was one of the events on Capitol grounds. We were there to protect that day. Her event was in Area 7 of the Senate Park, next to the Senate office buildings. The other one was Ali Alexander's event in Area 8, right outside the east doors of the Capitol. That's why we were there that day for January 5th and 6th. So, but she wanted to go and meet with Enrique, and Kelly Sorrell, who was the general counsel for Oath Keepers, also the general counsel volunteer for Latinos for Trump. And so Bianca says to Kelly, "Do you want to go meet and talk to Enrique?" She said, "Sure." And us Oath Keepers were with Kelly Sorrell, protecting her because she had been a whistleblower. She'd been part of the Lawyers for Trump observation team in Detroit and saw a lot of the hinky stuff going on in the convention center. When they told everybody to go home, don't worry about it, we'll see you tomorrow. Next thing you know, they're bringing in suitcases and coolers and stuff, and they start, counting again. So she blew the whistle on that, had a lot of death threats. So we were there to protect her. We walked over to go meet Enrique, for her to meet him. And I walked up and said, "Hey, man, I'm glad you're out of jail. Nice to meet you. I'm Stewart Rhodes." And he shook my hand and said, "The pleasure's all mine." And then I turned around and walked away. And in the video, you can see me with my back to them, standing outside of earshot, because I wanted to give them attorney-client privilege conversation. And he had a videographer with him that filmed everything. So I'm not talking to him anymore. I'm not part of their meeting. Now, the bad guys, the J6 Select Committee, for example, they took a still photo of me and Enrique when we're for 1 second face to face. They showed that to the American public when they did their public hearing, right? They showed that and said, "Here is the Oath Keeper leader and the Proud Boy leader meeting and planning the attack on the Capitol on the night of the 5th. So right there, they've tampered with evidence and misrepresented evidence, showing us just standing there for a fraction of a second. It was a greeting, not a meeting.
So this was used in your prosecution, right?
No, it's used in his prosecution.
In his prosecution. Okay.
Well, it was used in my prosecution because all of my jurors had watched that. They had all seen the J6 Select Committee Dog and Pony show. By admission, they had seen it.
Right.
So that tainted the jury pool right there. They'd seen that on before my trial. They'd seen all the presentations that said the Oath Keepers are white supremacists. They had one of our former employees get up there and test a lie and say that nonsense. And they showed this still photo. So that the jury had been tainted by all this. They didn't have to use it at trial. It's already in jury's heads.
Yeah.
They've already presented the evidence to the jury through the national
Yeah, they've
media.
been bombarded with this
Right.
messaging well before the prosecutions were.
So that's absolutely, they know it's not true. They know the video shows me walking up, saying hi, and walking away. They don't care about the truth. They're all about lies. It's like Ron Paul said, my old boss, in an empire of lies, truth is treason. That's true. And lies are loyalty. And that's what I wanted to say is that if you're loyal to them, you agree to repeat the lie that will reward you. Like the two guys that pled out, two of our Oath Keepers, who were all threatened with life in prison. Two guys crumbled under that threat, and they agreed to plead guilty to seditious conspiracy, the worst charge of all. Never saw a prison cell. They were out pre-trial.
They just needed the admission, right?
So they wanted that admission, and they signed on to a false statement of fact saying that Stewart Rhodes had planned since November of 2020 to attack the Capitol. They signed on to that. So guys below me were told, if you sign on to, if you say that Stewart Rhodes told you to go inside, you can go home.
We'll take it easy on you.
Yeah, well, they did. And my co-defendant, Kelly Meggs, was offered that. They told him straight up that if you will say that he told you to go inside, you can go home today. And he refused to do it, to his honor, to his credit. So those of us who did not agree to lie were punished. Solitary confinement, put on trial. I got 18 years. I believe Kelly Meggs got 14. So they hammered us pretty good. The guys that pled guilty to it never saw prison. They were only sentenced finally by Judge Mehta in December of 2024. He sentenced them to probation only.
Wow.
So I get 18 years. They get probation only. And the sick thing about it, though, is that they were also pardoned by the Trump administration.
And you still haven't got a full.
No, I'm on commutation only. I'm still a felon. I can't own a gun. I can't vote in Texas. While I was in solitary confinement, I got a letter from the VA telling me that I'm a disabled vet, right? Service connected. All that's wiped away. No more disability payments, no more medical care, and I can't be buried in a veteran cemetery when I die.
So what's the latest news on you getting a full pardon?
Well, we're gonna, of course, I want one. I'm asking for one. So we'll just, we have my lawyers working on that, and hopefully, we'll have I believe in the end we'll be exonerated and
absolutely
pardoned. But there's 14 of us, and we're all either Oath Keepers or Proud Boys that have been singled out for commutation only. I'm sure it's someone in one of the lawyers in the Trump administration convinced President Trump that this was the right thing to do. I think if he knew the facts, he wouldn't.
Well, it's very key to the whole narrative that you look like one.
There really was a conspiracy.
Right? Yeah, you got to be a ringleader and all this stuff.
Right.
This Christian Buddhist practicing extremist over here. It's pretty interesting. So, let's talk again about as far as your social media credentials. We were talking about that over before this last segment. You're still not on X. You're still not on Facebook. Have you got an explanation as to why from each of those?
No, nothing at all. It's very much the same as it was during Twitter. It's like being back during the old Twitter days. No, zero explanation. You're just suspended. That's it.
Well, I think if folks that are watching the show now, go ahead and share this because it's important. Have you been afforded many opportunities to kind of have this where you get to sit down and just talk about everything you got to do? Because I feel like a lot of there's the good thing about X is you can get on a lot of these different spaces and
I did a six hour long form with Ivan Raiklan. So him and I became pretty quick, became buddies and partners in crime in DC. So in fact, a good little funny story. When I got out, I was released in Cumberland, Maryland. 11:30 at night. They knock on my door and say, "Pack your stuff." This is on inauguration night, and then Mel and Jen Baker from Condemned USA picked me up. Mel, my co-author. They picked me up and drove down to the DC jail. They were still holding some of the guys in DC jail, not letting them out, making all kinds of stupid excuses. Kind of slow walking as a beginning of their pushback. And so we were there to protest against that. And then 2 days later, Ivan and I went into Congress to advocate for Jeremy Brown's release, met with his congressman Gus Bilirakis and chief of staff, real nice people. We were there with his mom and his girlfriend, and then we went down to the basement to have lunch in the cafeteria in the basement of the I think we're in a Longworth building. But anyway, we're down in the cafeteria, and then some folks recognized me and wanted selfies and stuff with me. And then the media caught wind of us being there, and we walked out in the hallway. There was like 20 leftist media surrounded us, and we just kind of held court about the COVID coup and election of 2020 was stolen, illegal, and unconstitutional, and all that. J6 was a setup. We just kind of held court. Well, my judge saw that, and 2 days later, he got so upset by me being in the Capitol, exercising free speech and association, and participating in the political process. He put an order in to amend his conditions of supervised release to ban me and the other community oath keepers, the ones that are still under his thumb for our probation, ban us from Washington, D.C., ban us from the Capitol. So that's what happened.
So as it stands, you cannot travel.
Well, no. It's just, but that got reversed because Ed Martin, the new U.S. attorney for D.C., filed a motion and said, you have no authority to do this. And further, you're not respecting President Trump's intent. When he commuted these sentences, he intended for all these men to be free of any restrictions. And so then the judge backed off, and now I have no restrictions on me.
And that's one of the biggest uphill battles Trump is facing right now. You got a lot of these judges that are just clearly activist judges. Do you have any inside? What are your sources saying as far as some of those cases go, as far as these judges are?
Well, I mean, the obvious remedy, constitutional remedy, is impeachment. They need to be impeached and removed from the bench.
Yeah,
that's what should start happening. But I go back to what I advocated in 2020. Was I wrote up in letters to President Trump, encouraging him to invoke the Insurrection Act because it left as an obvious insurrection, and to use that authority to go and seize evidence of election fraud. But I also encouraged him to use his absolute power to declassify anything that's been classified as secret. Like that all agencies under the executive branch. He's the head of the executive branch. He's commander in chief. He has complete authority to just declassify anything he wants to, and I encouraged him to do that. Unless it was a legitimate national security secret, which are very few, most of it's covering and hiding. That's what I said to him in an open letter, is that the secrets of the elites are the swamp water that the swamp creatures swim in. It both protects them and controls them. So long as they go along, they're part of the club, they're rewarded. They'll become millionaires, right? But if you get out of line, you can be exposed and crushed. That's how they're controlled. Look at J. Edgar Hoover. No one would ever dare, no president tried to fire him because everyone knew that he knew all their dirty secrets. He bugged their hotel rooms, bugged their bedrooms. He sent in honeypot operators to snare them with pillow talk. So that's back then with files, old school stuff. Now,
it's part of it. It's like a field manual over there.
Imagine what it's like now with NSA, with total information awareness. So yes, of course, they're all being blackmailed or bribed. And so the best way to destroy the deep state is exposure. You throw open the doors, throw all the skeletons out of the closets, whether it's a conservative or so-called conservative or a liberal, in all three branches of government, and also all the governors, also all the Federal Reserve, and also Wall Street. Throw the doors open and show the corruption, all the collusion, just like Elon Musk did with Twitter.
Right.
Do the same exact thing with all their secrets. Throw it out there for everyone to see.
Now, as far as the Epstein files were concerned, there's definitely it's not only the FBI, just the whole machine itself, right? When we talk about the swamp, these blackmailing schemes, how many of our senators and congressmen and other political figures are compromised, in your opinion?
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
I think that's I knew a guy who worked in Korea. He'd been in the military in Korea, married a Korean girl, and began to do business in Korea and China. And he said that that's just common practice in China. They'll bring businessmen into like a karaoke bar, take them in the back room. Next thing you know, they're doing coke off of, doing coke with young girls, and are having sex and stuff. And then videotape them doing this. That's the price for admission. As long as you agree to be blackmailed, you're fine. You just do what you're told.
And sometimes
imagine Hunter hanging out in China.
Well. Right. And if you're doing some of the darker stuff, you really get a leg up in certain areas.
Right. So if you're on, like, in fact, I'll tell you a story. So I'm not going to name his name, but I'll have to get his permission to do that for my book. But I have a friend who's a musician, a good guy, freedom musician, who said him and his wife were shopping at a store, saw a man in a wheelchair with no legs and having a hard time loading his groceries. So they helped him out, and they kind of befriended him. They took him, helped him load up his groceries, took him to his apartment. And he came over to dinner one night, and my friend was playing a very emotional song. He was a Christian, very emotional Christian music. And this guy broke down and started crying and sobbing. And my friend asked him, "What's wrong?" And he said, "God is punishing me for my sins." His body's like falling apart. It's like a modern version of leprosy. And he said, "God is punishing me for my sins." And my friend said, "What did you do?" He said, "I was part of a blackmail operation to blackmail politicians, having sex with children, and some of them even killed the children on video. And that was part of the admission to
That
the
was
club."
part of the admissions. And
Right.
what we're hearing now with these Epstein cases is that it wasn't just, being compromised position. There were actual snuff films in these dossiers.
Right.
There's
Right.
the most horrible. It goes back to, you ever heard of Jimmy Savile out of the UK?
Yes.
Right.
When
right.
he was visiting those hospital wings, apparently that was another part of it. They were doing and this is where, you get labeled the other conspiracy side, because it sounds made up, doing these ritualistic things with kids
Right.
and killing them in the process. Not only just doing that, it's almost like a price for admission.
Yeah,
You
it
get
is.
certain keys to certain areas
Right.
if you're that dark.
You
about it.
agree to whether it's a guy, whether the hammer over their head is homosexuality, or whether it's, it's like I said, full blown pedophilia or snuff films. They agree to be filmed, I believe. That's their quid pro quo.
Yeah, some of these, some of the reports on some of the moms, they may be in a destitute situation. They'll agree to do one of these films, and they'll be part of it, and they get some kind of guarantee to help their kids. And of course, it's this is the dark stuff, folks, but it's also the reality of where we're at. This isn't a practice that was born just within the United States over the past century, right?
No.
This is ancient practice kind of stuff. But now with the advent of technology and the ability to record everything, it's more out in the open, and it's par for the course. So
yeah. So Epstein had cameras in every room of his house,
every room,
bedrooms,
in every building, and
Yeah.
including on that island. I mean,
Right.
there was a lot of different aspects of recording mechanisms, and even that little building that's famous with the gold dome on top of it. It wasn't just that building. There was an underground part of it, apparently, and nobody has access to kind of. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but let's go over to some of what's happened yesterday. So yesterday, the media. There was coverage about the Epstein files being released, and basically what had happened was a binder was given, and we were supposed to be getting some new information. Apparently, a lot of it is redacted. It's mostly blacked out. It's not new information that we got. And according to Pan Bondi, the FDNY and the FBI field office out of New York is failing to comply with some of these requests. Now, before I start and I kick off into some of this, it's important to understand and caveat that it's been years after this Epstein scandal went down. We've known about Epstein. Alex Jones was covering this well into the early 2000s. I mean, this is par for the course, and this is, but I'm still a little optimistic about it, but to think that all of that evidence is still there, at least within the United States, I'm sure some intelligence agencies still have access to some of the, because you need it.
Right.
You need it. You can't really just delete it. So it's probably somewhere.
It's in the CIA, I'm sure. Somewhere.
It's in the CIA. It's probably in aspects of the MI6. There's probably different organizations that have these kind of things. But anyway, the firestorm came from. They gave these. They invited some conservative social media influencers out there. They got the binder, and then as they're leaving, there was a whole press corps of photographers and everybody waiting in the wings, and it looked like a prop kind of event. It wasn't a good look. And if you're not getting all the information, you're getting these binders, and we'll find out what else is in these binders. But here is the letter from the Office of Attorney General. This is from Pam Bondi. She sent this over to Patel. I'll read this out for you folks, and let's see if I can share this on screen here. With me. Dear Director Patel, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we had received the full set of documents. Late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn of this new information. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office. So we'll see once we get offline today if, what they complied with. I'm skeptical, including all records, documents, audio and video recordings and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein and his clients, regardless of how such information was obtained. There will be no withholding or limitations to my or your access. The Department of Justice will ensure that any public discourse of these files will be done in a manner to protect the privacy of victims in accordance with the law, as I have done my entire career as a prosecutor. I am also directing you to conduct an immediate investigation into why my order to the FBI was not followed. You will deliver to me a comprehensive report of your findings and proposed personnel action within 14 days. I appreciate your immediate attention to this important matter. I know we are both committed to transparency for the American people, and I look forward to continuing the work with you to serve as our president. So just total disregard of the law. Obviously, you're going to have rogue elements in here. And this is something Mark and I talk about. These people aren't just going to hand this stuff over.
Well, that's why Kash Patel has to do his own version of Doge inside of his own agency. He has to have his hit team go in, and they need to go in and find the material and turn it over.
Yeah,
and then fire anybody who was being obstructionist.
And that's the obvious goal, and that's very exciting to think about. That kind of aspect to it, because you can only imagine. It's important, and it's a security risk for all kinds of different reasons, on top of all the other reasons involved, why we need to know everything about that. So for those that aren't familiar with the Epstein file, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to go over the official kind of the story around Epstein's. Bear with me here. Okay. Let's go over who Epstein was, what he was accused in. Stewart, please feel free to interrupt me. Mark, please do the same. Let's go through kind of an examination of what exactly happened to him. And while we're going through this, I would like to go through kind of Ghislaine Maxwell. People forget about her role in all this, and then kind of the people that are running these schemes, and they run they're into these insane medical experiments and everything along these lines. Nobody would ever guess what we have going on out there, and I think it's important to walk through this. So let me go through this. Everybody bear with me. The case of Jeffrey Epstein represents one of the most complex and disturbing criminal sagas of the 21st century. Intertwining allegations of systemic sexual abuse, aspirations for genetic manipulation, and speculative connections to clandestine media productions. So this report synthesizes verified facts, legal proceedings, and documented allegations to provide granular analysis of Epstein's crimes, his pseudoscientific ambitions, and the enduring mystery surrounding his operations. Key findings include Epstein's orchestration of transnational sex trafficking networks targeting minors, his fascinations with borderline eugenics and DNA mining, and the pervasive use of surveillance technology to facilitate blackmail. While no verified, let's go through here. Of course, the case's resolution remains incomplete because he died in front of all of us. Mm-hmm. He committed suicide. That's the official narrative. Let's go through some of this. Epstein's sex trafficking operation relied on a hierarchical system of recruitment, often leveraging vulnerable minors through financial incentives and psychological manipulation. Survivors describe being approached by female recruiters. And this is something Mark, you and I talked about on a segment way past. It got pretty dark because it's pretty awful, because you got to go through the history with Kinsey and all these other actors that are in play for all this kind of stuff. They always use females to recruit a lot of these kids. Survivors describe being approached by female recruiters, including Ghislaine Maxwell, who promised lucrative opportunities for massages, for modeling gigs, for acting opportunities, for commercials, and everything in between at Epstein's properties. Once inside his residence, victims were coerced into sexual acts under threat of violence or reputational harm. One of them I remember was talking about how he had a little gator farm in one of his residents and said basically whatever happened to anybody that talks, they get fed to those gators. 16-year-old survivor recounted Jeffrey. I don't want to go into some of this. So some of this details the actual crimes itself. Epstein's Palm Beach mansion functioned as a hub for these crimes, with victims as young as 14 subjected to repeated assaults. Detectives noted that Epstein explicitly instructed recruits to bring younger girls, emphasizing his preference for minors. Financial payments were structured to incentivize recruitment. Victims received $200 to $300 for their own participation, and additional subs for procuring new targets. This creating a self-perpetuating cycle of exploitations, with survivors often entrapped by their complicity in expanding Epstein's network. Let's go through Ghislaine Maxwell's role. Epstein's longtime associate played a pivotal role in normalizing interactions with the victim. Posing as a trusted confidant, she allegedly groomed minors by discussing their personal lives with them before escorting them to his properties. Former Palm Beach detective Joseph Riccari testified that Maxwell actively screened candidates, prioritizing those without massive experience or exposure or parents that might cause problems. Her 2021 conviction on sex trafficking charges confirms her centrality to the operation. And of course, her appeals remain ongoing. Here's some of the other interesting and weird aspects to Epstein. And this is kind of a common finding, because I got a file here on Peter Nygaard. For those who don't know Peter Nygaard, we'll dip in a little bit about that today. Epstein's interests extended beyond sexual predation into pseudoscientific ventures aimed at manipulating human genetics. Through his company Southern Trust, he sought to establish a DNA mining operation in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, proposing to sequence residents' genomes under the guise of medical research. Epstein claimed this data would fuel a search engine identifying genetic predispositions to diseases like cancer, though experiments dismissed the project as scientifically incoherent. This was not to help people and cure them of diseases. There was something else a little more sinister involved here. So in a lot of these folks that are part of this, they're obsessed with the human genome and DNA sequences and all kinds of things. A lot of this delves into the transhumanist kind of ideology and eugenic type of fantasies. Epstein's fascination with transhumanism, of movement advocating human enhancement via technology, manifested into disturbing fantasies. He reportedly aspired to impregnate 20 women simultaneously at his New Mexico ranch, intending to disseminate his DNA as part of his superior human lineage. This plan obviously was rooted in early 20th century eugenics theories, aimed to improve humanity through selective breeding despite lacking any scientific basis. Epstein cultivated relationships with prominent scientists, including Harvard geneticist George Church. He was also good pals with Bill Gates. We all know that. Critics argued these associations lent undeserved credibility to these delusional projects. A lot of this stuff is in the fantasy of living forever. That's really what it is.
Right,
It's this obsession that they can live, for years and years, and even to the point where do I have that? On his death, Epstein wanted his penis and his head frozen, and wanted it to remain upon his death. Well, he won't get that wish. No.
Well, what's wrong with that? I mean,
yeah, he wanted his head frozen and his piece and to live on forever. You just
you want to transplant. You want to keep those two things.
You want to keep those two things
Right.
and live on through the genome, whatever.
So eventually have an android with just his head and his penis on it.
Yeah. And then he could just keep going. He could
Right.
keep raping little girls. Epstein's properties were equipped with extensive surveillance systems designed to capture compromising footage of high-profile visitors. So a lot of folks are here. This came to light again recently with the whole P. Diddy scandal, because apparently P. Diddy was doing a lot of this and having sex with men in his New York parties. I forgot what they were called. You remember the name of those
Freak Fest
parties?
or whatever.
Freak Fest.
Yeah,
That's what they
Freak
were.
Fests.
Hidden cameras in his New York mansion monitored bedrooms, bathrooms, with feeds routed to a secured media room. So imagine that, folks. Picture that. You got a New York mansion apartment. Every single room and bathroom has. There was even weird things in the apartment, like dentist chairs and other types of medical equipment in there. So who knows the extent of what was really going on in there? Probably some. And then there's a central room where all the audio and all the video feed comes into. So sitting there, someone's hired to actually sit there, monitor it, do the recording. So the trove of documents and files on this are huge.
Yeah.
He's been going at this for about
how many
long?
hours of film?
Yeah, even going back to apparently when they raided his properties, VHS tapes. They were going through. I mean, that's how far back this went. Artist Maria Farmer, who worked for Epstein in 1996, recalled technicians monitoring live footage. I saw toilet, bed. It was obvious they were monitoring private moments. Investigators discovered compact discs labeled young/name plus other name. So that's what it would look like in quotations. They would say young, and it would put the name of the victim plus whoever they compromised. In Epstein's safe, suggesting archive footage for potential blackmail. In 2024, unsealed court documents revealed allegations by survivor Sarah Ransom, who asserted Epstein possessed sex tapes involving figures like Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton. Ransom later retracted these claims under duress, stating, "I fabricated them because I was scared for my family." Okay. While no such tapes have been substantiated, Ransom maintains that Epstein's associate possess incriminating footage. These allegations echo broader cultural anxieties about snuff films in a genre Epstein's hidden cameras inadvertently invoked and is possibly in those possessions. So let's go back. His 2008 non-prosecution agreement, Epstein's initial evasion of severe punishment, stemmed from a 2008 plea deal negotiated by then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. Despite grand jury testimony detailing Epstein's rape of a 14-year-old girl, he pleaded guilty to minor state charges, serving only 13 months in a work release program.
So slap on the wrist.
Slap on the wrist. This agreement shielded co-conspirators and set a precedent for impunity, with Judge Luis Delgado later condemning it as a portrayal of decency, you think? 2019 federal indictment and death in custody. Epstein's 2019 arrest on federal sex trafficking charges promised renewed accountability, but his death in the Metropolitan Correctional Cell on August 10th, 2019 halted proceedings. Autopsy finding revealed neck injuries inconsistent with typical suicides, including hemorrhaging in the shoulder muscles. And I can't pronounce that word, but marks indicative of strangulation. Forensic pathologist Michael Baden concluded the evidence pointed more towards homicide.
Yeah.
Feeling speculation of foul play, you think? Guards admitted falsifying logs to conceal lapses in cell checks. And there's no charges currently as
he was on suicide watch, right?
He was on suicide watch.
I was a suicide watch companion in prison. And where I was at in Cumberland FCI, you watched them 24/7. So I would have a 4-hour shift. You pull up in a chair, sitting outside their cell, watching them through. It's a glass window.
They're never alone.
Never
right?
alone. You're watching them the entire time. That's how you do suicide watch.
Oh yeah,
Under constant observation.
But on this time,
suddenly
the video doesn't work and people aren't there
They're
and
asleep
so,
or whatever. Right.
And an important distinction to make here, just to clarify, it's not suicide watch like, hey, let's go watch a suicide. It's actually to keep people from committing suicide. Okay, in case there's some,
right.
I
wasn't watching the guy commit suicide. They're to prevent it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess
so it's about prevention.
It was suicide watch.
Yeah, it was. Hey, watch this suicide.
Yeah, watch this one.
Yeah, so that's kind of the high level. And I titled this kind of segment the reality of our rulers.
So he was suicided.
He was suicided, they call it. Yeah, that's
Clinton,
like who was the
Arkansas?
Who
I think it was
the one
that
they had a lot of folks that shot themselves like two times
back of the head.
in the back of the head.
Right.
Yeah. Some of those suicides and
in Arkansas.
Oh yeah.
Who was the one that uncovered the drug running? They made a movie about that. I think it was.
It was Made in America with Tom Cruise, and it was about Barry Seal.
Very seal.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So here's some of the weird medical history with the eugenics side of this. He was fascinated by the idea of improvement, the DNA seeding plan. Around 2001, he pitched a wild scheme to use that in New Mexico ranch again to impregnate up to 20 women. He took cues from the Repository for Germinal Choice, a 1980s sperm bank for Nobel laureates, which he saw as a model.
He wanted to spread his DNA far and wide, huh?
Oh yeah, he liked that Genghis Khan kind of shit.
Right,
man.
right.
Yeah,
Was this a repository or a suppository?
Or depository.
Well, we're talking about impregnating, and I don't know. I'm not smart. You know,
you better calm down on there, bro.
Hey, you know what, Travis? Stewart keeps looking at me like a cow looks at a new gate.
I'm starting to do the same.
Did you want to be a taste tester over his podcast?
Damn.
That's a good batch.
Oh god. Yeah, and there was also he funded groups like Harvard's Evolutionary Dynamics and the Worldwide Transhumanist Association, hosted dinners, conferences with big names like Stephen Hawking, who was Stephen Hawking,
I don't get that,
a
man.
visitor at the island.
Was he really?
Yeah, a
I
lot.
want to go to the island.
Yeah.
I had fun at the island.
How do you do it? I can't do it too. But
I
all I can see is he's
do
all
that.
folded up into that chair and he's going over there for chicks. How the hell does any of that work? I mean, I don't. Am I asking questions?
This is why I'm covering this, because we have no idea the weird type of shit all these people are into. Okay, this is just part and parcel of it, and this death cult that really we're looking at here.
Mm.
Yeah, wanted his head and penis frozen after death, believing cryonics could revive him to preserve his legacy.
Damn.
He wanted to keep the most important equipment.
Oh yeah.
I mean, me personally, if there was something I could, you
want to bring back,
well, it wouldn't. I
your
would like.
brain and your penis.
No, I would want to say, hey, can I get an upgrade? I might, I'm looking at upgrades. Okay. So I'm thinking in the future, maybe they could make it, hey, a little, I mean,
You got there the upgrade model.
not that I'd be saying anything about myself, but it might be short, but it's skinny.
TMI, man.
Oh, okay. T-Mike.
I'm gonna take the camera off Mark for a second.
Cut his
here.
mic off.
We'll keep going here. I'll do a time check here. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We got a lot of folks tuning in right now. So let's go through the official narrative of Jeffrey Epstein's death has been established as a suicide. Camera malfunctions. Why did multiple cameras near his cell malfunction simultaneously on the night of his death? It wasn't one camera. It was multitudes.
And why could
of
the
cameras.
staff not be observing him like they're supposed to do?
Exactly.
On a suicide watch?
Thorough technical analysis of the explanation of the camera sister films could help dispel suspicious delivery. Well, no shit. How were two guards able to falsify logs and neglect their duties for several hours without immediate detection? Why was Epstein's cellmate removed on August 9th, contrary to psychological directives, and not replaced? How did Epstein obtain excess bedding materials in a high security unit? Stewart, talk about that a little bit. When you're the suicide watch, what are you allowed in your cell?
They were in what they call a turtle suit. They're like it looks like a big moving mat. That's what you're wrapped in. It's designed to make it so they can't choke themselves with it.
So he had just all of a sudden had all these shit. That's when you're on suicide watch, the first thing you want to give them is like rope, and a gun, a fully loaded gun,
razor blades,
razor blades, a mirror.
Yeah, they're not allowed to have anything they could possibly harm themselves with.
Yeah,
but
somehow,
and even then you're watching them because they might try to bash their heads against the concrete or something. And you got to call staff.
Well, and then you go through the autopsy discrepancies. Can medical experts provide a more detailed explanation of why Epstein's injuries were more consistent with and indicative of a suicide by hanging rather than a homicide by strangulation? Postmortem protocol violations. Why was Epstein's body removed from his cell before proper documentation? These are stupid questions because we know the answers, right?
Same reason why the front door of the Branch Davidian compound,
bingo,
the building disappeared because it's evidence.
Bingo.
It disappeared. So, given his previous suicide attempt. I mean, you can't just believe this stuff. Of course, like if you want to get him killed, like, oh, he cut himself. We put Roger in the cell with him, and he slit his wrist for him because Epstein asked him to do that. So now he's on suicide watch. Let's see here.
Because I think Epstein was a karate man. He was a chain belt.
He was a chain belt.
Yep.
He was a special ninja.
Stewart.
Karate Man and bruise on the inside. Remember that?
I'll drop some movie lines now, brother.
Let's go through some of
He's
these
a
other
karate man.
questions here, man. And obviously, the guards failed to check on him for 8 hours.
Unbelievable.
8 hours.
That's a pretty good suicide watch. Yeah,
That's a good one.
That's honestly, that's top line.
Yeah.
That's top
That's
line.
nothing but the best.
So let's see. Who claimed Epstein's body after his death, and why was it buried in an unmarked tomb? Did y'all know that? I didn't know that. Nobody has claimed his body after his death, and these are I found some of the questions as to why. What can help? What questions can we ask that would help just clear up a lot of this stuff? Because one of the things, and this goes back to kind of the COINTELPRO angle, or the PSYOPs angle, if you will. Whenever there's a true story, the government pushes out a lot of wild conspiracy theories to associate it with the truth. So every time you bring it up, you're like, oh, you're one of those reptile alien people.
Chaff.
What's that, Sad? Explain that.
So like a fighter jet to stop itself from being hit with a missile will throw out chaff.
Lets out the flares, right?
Yeah.
That kind of deal. I like that.
That divert the attack.
Yeah. Who claimed Epstein's body after his death, and why was it buried in an unmarked tomb?
I thought his brother. Didn't his brother come along and claim the body or something? For some reason, I thought.
What? No, this is a distraction, though, right? What's it matter?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
It's more.
Maybe his head and his penis are out there somewhere.
Well, hey, enough with those jokes, right?
Maybe that why. Hey, he asked for
y'all
it.
just shut my mic down after that last one I told.
How did the Bureau of Prisons negligence, later confirmed by the Inspector General, go unpunished beyond 2 guards' plea deals? What was the full extent of Ghislaine Maxwell's role in Epstein's operation beyond what was revealed at her trial? Why did powerful figures like Bill Clinton maintain ties with Epstein after his 2008 conviction? Did Prince Andrew's settlement with Virginia Giuffre indicate guilt, or was it purely to avoid further scrutiny? How involved was Alan Dershowitz beyond legal representation, giving conflicting testimonials about his visits to Epstein's properties? What did Leslie Wexner know about Epstein's activities, considering he gave him more power of attorney over his vast wealth? Why did Jean-Luc Brunel, a key Epstein associate, also die by suicide in custody? Another coincidence. Were any of Epstein's high-profile clients, like those on his flight logs, ever investigated for? Well, we know they weren't. Okay, let's go here. What was the person's? Yeah, and these are some of the obvious questions, right? What was the purpose of the Black Book? How did Okay, this was the wild one. How did he amass his wealth?
Yeah.
How did he amass his wealth? Stuart, talk about that.
That's right, because he was a was he like a proctor or a teacher?
Amway distributor.
Private school.
He was.
That's true. Yeah, he was an Amway distributor. He became. He was the top of the pyramid. He was a pharaoh.
He was a pharaoh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he even he had access to hundreds of millions of dollars, and I think we know the kind of generic answer to that is he was part of these intelligence operations,
right.
Yeah. And they were funneling money.
That's what he was supposed
to be doing. Him and his organizations. Yes, and he was a professor at a college, mm-hmm. and there was that Netflix documentary, which it's a good one, folks, but it's also bad at the same time. Mm-hmm. It kind of hush because you got the university. I think it was the dean that was on there. Said, "Well, we don't know. I don't know how he got by me and didn't."
Yeah, that was Dean Martin.
Say what? Yeah, he probably bribed, or he compromised the dean, is my guess. There's probably a little file there somewhere on Mr. Cryogenic Freeze Head Penis Boy.
He was installed.
Cryogenic Freeze Head Penis Boy.
Probably installed.
Cryogenic Freeze. That's a T-shirt.
That's a T-shirt.
That's some new merch.
Freeze Head Penis Boy.
Oh, dude, we're making that shirt. How many people in chat buy that shirt if we come out with one?
Yeah. How did he amass his wealth? What was he doing with this black book? What is the extent of the blackmail operation, and what countries and intelligence agencies were tied to it? Why did the FBI fail to act on Alfredo Rodriguez's attempt to sell Epstein's contact list years earlier? What happened on St. Little James Island that remains undocumented beyond what victims have described? How did Epstein's 2008 plea deal shield potential co-conspirators who approved its unusually lenient terms? Why haven't more of Epstein's associates faced criminal charges? Did Epstein's connections to intelligence agencies influence his death or the investigations? Let's see. How much of the How much of the public narrative around Epstein has been shaped by misinformation or withheld evidence? I think we know the answer to that. What systemic failures allowed Epstein to operate? Systemic failures. I hate this question.
Yeah, it's all about incompetency, right? It's not by plan.
What do I always say, Mark? What's the saying here? How long do you blame incompetence or stupidity before you ask yourself if it's intentional?
It's intentional.
Yeah.
It's always intentional.
It's always intentional. Okay.
Yeah.
Bear with me, folks. I know I'm going through a lot.
Says it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So I did want to go through.
I want to ask real quick while you're looking, Stewart, what was the very first thing you wanted to eat when you got out of prison?
I can't talk about that.
Okay. Well,
that's a family show.
No, well, it really isn't, because you can actually say pretty much anything you want to.
As far as actual edible food,
I'm talking about caloric intake, but I mean, depending on.
Hang on. I saw in the press they made a big deal. You were at that Dunkin' Donuts there, weren't you?
That's right.
Did you? You got some Dunkin'?
You wanted, so Dunkin' Donuts was
that
your
was extremist behavior, bro.
No,
man. No, I mean, we went to a gas station. It was just weird walking in and being able to buy whatever I wanted. You know, it was just strange. Yeah.
No, so you weren't craving anything specifically?
I bought fried chicken.
Oh, hell
yeah. What kind of fried chicken does Stewart Rhodes prefer? Because there's lots of different kinds.
The one they had available at the gas station.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Yeah,
you settled for that? Not something like Bojangles or Popeyes or
closed.
Hearts?
It was late at night.
Really?
Yeah, it was good. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, but so it tastes pretty damn good, didn't it?
Sure, yeah.
Did you get hungry? You're making my mom hungry, Mark.
Did you get some mashed taters with that there, Stewart? Do you like some mashed taters and gravy with your fried chicken?
We got potato wedges.
You got what?
Wedges.
Oh, potato wedges.
Wedges.
Do you like those fried or those baked?
Fried.
Okay. Do you like a little ketchup with it, or you like a little honey mustard, ranch? What are you going with?
Ketchup, definitely.
Okay.
But no, we went out to one of the first restaurants we went to was a Brazilian steakhouse. Those are always good.
Oh, yeah.
A Bonanza steak. You said Bonanza.
Brazilian.
I was gonna say, man, we're going, man, we're in high cotton. And we're going to Bonanza. Hey, kids, where y'all want to go for dinner? Mom, Dad, can we go to Bonanza? You bet we sure can, boy.
Bonanza Steakhouse.
Daddy got some overtime this week. We're going to take them out. Let's take the whole gang out there to the Bonanza Steakhouse.
Oh, yeah. Brazilian steakhouse.
A Brazilian. Yeah. Now, why would you want to go to? Isn't that where they kind of wax you?
No. You're thinking about something else, Mark. You pervert.
They don't wax you before you eat.
Well, it depends. I mean, given what his preference for when he wanted to eat when he got out.
Well, okay. Well, you know what happens when a guy goes to, so you get your Kraken sack done and then you get your meal. Is this how this works? I'm bilingual. No tango se pluma. We've talked about this before.
You don't have a pen?
Yeah, I don't have a pen.
Okay.
That's Stewart. We'll get.
You're gonna have to tell that story.
I'll tell a story. But the other phrase I got is "como tu frijol."
Okay.
What? Because you've got some Hispanic.
I look over at my mom when.
No, como tu frijol. How you been?
Oh, how you been, frijol?
How you been? Come on, how you been?
Muy buen.
I'm sorry.
Where did you take us?
Hey,
where did we go?
I was thinking
you would like a Brazilian steakhouse. Bunch of young guys bringing meat around for you.
What?
I like that. Yeah.
What? Yeah. Rose, you're laughing at that. That was at my expense. Oh my God. boy, Stewart and I just became a little too familiar, I think.
Stewart is extreme. He's ruthless.
Man,
he's
it
ruthless.
didn't take long for Stewart to catch on, did it?
No, it did. It took about half a second. He knew what he was in.
Hey, listen, Stewart, the three of us, you know what we need to do? Rose, you're invited to, but you're a girl, so we wouldn't expect you if you backed out. We need to go down and get us some matching leprechaun tattoos when this is over with.
Right.
Some matching
That's high on my
leprechaun
priority
tattoos.
list.
Yeah, let's get some because I like the ink you got here, and we're hoping to get a shot of it. That is
yeah.
Look at Trump on his arm. That is
Stewart, man.
That is one of the most amazing tattoos.
Pretty good prison tat. Yeah, that was good.
Whoa.
You got that in,
Yeah.
dude. You're bona fide now.
I got that in prison. Yeah.
You're bona fide.
You got?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah. Yep.
That you got that in prison.
That's actually really good.
It's pretty good. Yeah,
that is amazing.
We'll have to. I don't have the camera zoomed in on you. We'll have to get a good shot.
We're going to get a good shot of that because that is an amazing. I understand Trump's credibility went up when he got shot.
Absolutely, man. All the guys in my unit, white, black, Hispanic, were all like, "Man, Trump's the OG original gangster."
Oh, that did
highest
it.
compliment.
Oh yeah, that did it.
Convicts.
Yeah. When I think there's nothing more obvious on how you need to vote for when they try to kill him right in front of you, and then just magically all these security failures.
And then he reacts like a man. That's a big thing.
And he gets up and he pounds his fist up, and he's,
I know. Fake that. I know it's getting late, Stewart. God bless you, bro. But could you please? You mentioned something last night about that whole thing, and I'd never put those two things together. Would you kind of walk, Travis? You're going to find this fascinating.
Yeah, let's go.
So
man.
I mean, like with JFK, the easiest way to kill somebody is with withhold protection, and also sow confusion. So in JFK's situation, the local police chief and the local sheriff were ordered to stay out of Dealey Plaza, so there couldn't be anybody in there to get in the way of the hit teams. And then they violated all their protocols about the speed of the car.
Right.
And it was supposed to be like 41 miles per hour minimum. They had them do a dog leg turn and slow them down to 10 miles per hour. All the Secret Service that would normally be riding on the running boards of the vehicle were pulled off and told to ride in the car behind it. The motorcycle cops that were normally driving next to him, they'd just done that in Houston, I think the day before, were pulled back also. So he was exposed. And the same thing happened in Butler. You had a situation where you can blame it on communication failures, but you also had the snipers, the Secret Service snipers, were told that particular building, the one that the guy wound up on top of, that was where the police snipers were going to be. And they were actually inside, but they were ordered to stay inside the building.
Right.
The roof was clear. So when the young man, who was the patsy, took position on that rooftop, it's exactly the right spot for him to be in and not be shot by Secret Service, because they're looking at that and going, "Oh, this must be one of the local guys." So you had a confliction problem. You had them not able to talk to each other, can't communicate with each other.
Yeah, and that was all the confusion.
They see a guy on the
trying to
rooftop.
get that ladder up there and all that kind of shit.
Right. So they were observing him, and only after he opened fire did they return fire and kill him.
But they purposely, there were multiple opportunities for the different agencies to share radios, to share communication. They even had meetings before the event. They didn't put them all together.
Local officer was upset about the fact that they didn't have communication, and they offered local police radios to Secret Service leadership, and the leadership did not give those to the agents. I don't blame the agents on the ground. I think the snipers did their job.
The leadership,
but the leadership, someone in the leadership is dirty.
Yeah.
It's just like with JFK in Dealey Plaza.
Yeah.
Someone higher up, I think, intentionally set that up that way.
Yeah, that pretty much, to me, that sealed the election for him.
Oh yeah,
that did it. That
goes back to, it's whatever man intends for evil, God will use for good. I think that's true. Just like with Joseph being sold into slavery by his brothers and then betrayed by his master's wife and falsely accused, that was used for good.
Yeah.
I think the same is true for President Trump, and that's when the election was won right there that night. I mean, he was going to win anyway, I think.
Yeah,
he definitely won over the working class man vote in the United States. Black, brown, Hispanic.
And it gave a almost like a public permission for people like Elon Musk, who may have been less vocal had that not happened, I think.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, because here's the thing. So guys look at Trump and they're like, okay, brash, tough talking New Yorker, kind of fits the model of a New Yorker, right? But you wonder, it's like, is he really for real? And that proved he was for real.
Yeah. Him standing up and that was just,
he reacted like a warrior. You got to go back to Andrew Jackson.
Oh yeah,
Teddy Roosevelt, or President Washington. That kind of coolness under fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely not Barack, because Barack couldn't even shoot a free throw. That flaming.
I don't know. He's married to Big Mike, bro.
Big Mike got a bigger penis than me.
I think that might give you some street cred.
Yeah, that boy, I'll tell you right now, you Big Mike. Big Mike be packing. Okay, I don't know if you knew about that, Stewart, and you might have opinion on it, but I've seen some Ellen DeGenerate video
you
from
saw the
Clever.
dancing.
And let me tell you something, man. If I had that kind of package working, buddy, I'd be Mr. Popular.
You would freeze it.
I'd bronze it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd bronze that sucker, man. I'd say, look at this. Look at me. You know, I'd never wear pants. But anyway, I don't know how we got off on all that. But thank you for sharing that, because you went into some detail last night.
Yeah. So I've been advocating for quite a while that I think President Trump needs his own private security.
Yes.
He really needs his own team of guys that are vetted, they're ex-Delta Force, ex-Navy SEALs, that are just top flight.
Who's the
Overwatch.
What do you feel about these private security? Who's the one?
Blackwater.
Blackwater by who's the guy?
I saw Eric Prince the other day at CPAC.
Eric Prince, yeah.
I just had a quick chat.
What are your thoughts on him? And
well,
you know,
he's pulling for Trump, and we had a little chat about that. He agreed with me that he needs his own security.
Yeah,
he did.
Do we know if Trump's doing any of that, or is he solely relying on well, I guess we wouldn't really know the details, would we?
Right. You wouldn't. Yeah, you probably wouldn't know. I hope he is. I really hope he is.
I hope he is too.
Yeah.
Boy,
well, what is your insights on what happened to him at Mar-a-Lago?
I mean, look at the golf
guy
course.
in the bushes.
Look at the golf course. Yeah, exactly. So it's just a no-brainer to me that you would have someone patrol those bushes, walk through with a guard or a dog.
Yeah,
it's too thick for you to go through it. Send the dog in.
Yeah,
you would go and patrol that, and he's got his car parked on the other side, sitting there for 12 hours, and no one checks the car out. No one wonders why this car is here. So once again, the easiest way to kill somebody is just withdraw protection.
Do you think there's a legitimate concern, because with what's happening in Ukraine, trying to pull out of there, isn't this kind of a ripe territory for a false flag type event?
What do you mean
as far as pulling us back into involvement in the Ukraine war, or trying to do something to basically kill Trump again?
Oh, sure. That's why he needs his own protection.
Yeah.
I think the deep state is not going to stop. They've tried twice now. I believe both cases were at least intentional withholding or protection, if not worse.
And what do we haven't done a show yet on those two shooters, the one at the golf course and the one in Butler. But what is your understanding of what you know about these two so far? Start with the one in Butler.
Well, what I hear is I haven't seen it yet, but I hear he was in a Blackwater Black Rock commercial, right?
Verified.
That's strange. That's bizarre, right?
And then the fella at the golf course was recruiting for the Ukrainian military. Did you see some of that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or he's over there in Ukraine trying to volunteer, right?
These people don't just come out of nowhere is really the point of the context there, right? If it's like little Chucky said, they got 6 ways from sundown.
Yeah. Well, even if the guy in Palm Springs was not Palm Springs, Palm Beach, even if he was just a loose cannon, you got loose cannons out there have been brainwashed by the leftist media.
We went through that early in the show.
Right.
They'll just recruit you. They'll give you the weapons. They'll get you to do it. And then
or just like I said, just expose you. We know that Iran has teams of assassins in the United States that are here to kill President Trump. So I worry about a drone attack. If you're out there playing golf, for example, you're wide open. You got no cover.
Right.
You could mortars could hit you. You could use a drone attack. Just have a fragmentation grenade or IED rigged up to a drone.
Well, it's especially pertinent now that you got Kash Patel in the FBI. We know you're not going to get cooperation from these other agencies. The intelligence agencies always worry about. These are organizations that they have a better case to just be scrapped than to be reformed. I don't think there's Trump's only got one term, and what happens when he leaves and say a Democrat gets in there and then just reverses all this stuff? I mean,
yeah.
And if you still have these agencies there, it needs to be impossible for future regimes to implement what we have, and it's not gonna be an overnight thing.
No,
it's a long-term thing.
Yeah, a really good book on the CIA, for example, is called The Devil's Chessboard. It was written by a guy named Talbot in 2015. So I always like to go back just before Trump.
Right.
Finally, he's a leftist, but he's at that time being honest about the history of the CIA.
Yeah.
Once Trump came in, suddenly they became pro-CIA, pro FBI.
It's funny how that works.
But how it just describes all of the things the CIA has done from its inception. And one thing you pointed out in the book that's really interesting is that they will go and recruit police officers like NYPD, LAPD, DC Metro to wear 2 hats to be working for the CIA while they're police officers. And they also use security companies, private security companies. You know, the Blackwaters of their day. I think one of them was Mayhew's and Associates was a big security company they used to kidnap people and turn them over to, you know, with their version back then of extraordinary rendition, be taken overseas and tortured and executed. So anyway, CIA has been dirty from the very beginning.
Dirty from the very beginning, and then that's why we're going into some of this Epstein material right now, because it just kind of shows a part of the machine, right? And let's go into Ghislaine Maxwell's background here, and I wanted to touch on this and get Stewart's thoughts here. So let's start with her dad, Robert Maxwell, WW2 origins, fled Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia, joined British SOE, earned Military Cross for valor, operated under codename Dusain in Operation Anthropoid, Cold War double dealing, MI6 asset, used Pergamon Press to launder funds for UK operations, Soviet ties, accused by the CIA of being Moscow's most effective capitalist agent. Mossad loyalists helped kidnap nuclear whistleblower Mordaki Vanunu in 1986. 1991, he drowned weeks after securing a $1 billion Soviet loan. Spanish investigators found KGB-linked toxins in his autopsy. She's a spook.
He was a spook.
Or he was a spook,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you go through Ghislaine. She was apparently abused pretty heavily as a child. Allegedly was pimped out by her father in a lot of different circles that also did compromising type of material at around age 15. One of these, she attended the Mossad briefings with director Mir Amit. Due to her father's fraud, she inherited $0, but still somehow amassed quite a bit of fortune. She did turn to Epstein to recover hidden offshore accounts. She introduced Epstein to Mossad contacts via the honey trap parties on yacht Lady Ghislaine. Epstein's Madame or Mossad assets trained in cachette entrapment tactics. Y'all hear that? Trained in cachette entrapment tactics. You know anything about some of that stuff? So,
I mean, I'm not surprised.
yeah. And targeted scientists, Maria Farmer, lured for access.
I mean, it's the same thing. Project Veritas does that for good. They'll take good-looking girls and send them out there to entrap these idiots.
To do those videos,
and, well, not entrap them, but just get them to talk. So yeah, it's the oldest, you know.
And here's some of the flight log clues, by the way, from the Lolita Express. Routes match CIA/Mossad black sites in Diego Garcia, Guantanamo. Passengers included defense contractors, Saudi royals, NSA cryptographers. Epstein's MIT donations funded AI projects with DARPA and Israeli military links. Victims' phones allegedly cloned for compromise via Epstein's Black Book servers. She was arrested days before testifying in a Trump-Russia probe. It died with the Mossad links guard on duty. That's a little confusing. What's that one? We'll go back into that. Yeah, so the whole pimping out his daughter, Robert Maxwell. Mossad documents cite Agent G running Eastern European sex rings in the 1980s. Blackmailed tapes of CEOs, politicians, which all of whom vanished post Epstein's death. Wexner's $46 million gift to Epstein tied to different intelligence agencies, including MI6, Mossad, and the CIA to real estate deals. So this is some of the interesting aspects behind. This is just Ghislaine Maxwell. So imagine all the other people in this circle.
In other circles.
In other circles.
Like the one I was talking about, the guy that was, he was being cursed by God. He participated in that. I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Let's go through some of this more. Yeah, Robert Maxwell named his yacht Lady Ghislaine and used her as a hostess for intelligence operatives. Guest logs show she attended 73 meetings with Mossad MI6 figures between 1987 1991. Mossad files linked in 2017 reference Agent G coordinating with Eastern European sex trafficking rings for
I'm
black.
surprised she's still alive. Must
I am
have
too.
been a deal that she'll be allowed to live.
Or maybe she's got some leverage somewhere.
Maybe so.
That we don't know about.
Bit of a dead drop, right? Literally.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, exactly. Victims. The sex trafficking network from tied to Epstein. Some of this is tied to scientific espionage. Victims recruited from science programs provided access to researchers in sensitive fields. Epstein's 2006 purchase of Wexner's Victoria's Secret coincided with Israeli military lingerie contracts and other intelligence agencies.
Lingerie contracts?
Yeah, lingerie contracts.
Or
Isn't that interesting?
Or as we used to say down south, lingerie.
Lingerie. That's a Texas line.
When we have our wedding night.
That's called the Victoria Ain't Secret line.
It is, man. I tell you, because man, your new wife come out in her fresh new lingerie, and man, I tell you, it just make you feel all gooey inside.
Yeah, this is
Stewart.
There's
that look again.
There's a lot of people that, and even myself included, when I read through some of this, you have no idea the depth behind even just an associate tied to Ghislaine Maxwell. I didn't know her father was involved in all these intelligence schemes.
Yeah,
I didn't know she was trained.
What else do you need to know?
That's it.
Right.
So the Epstein files being released yesterday.
Limited hangout.
It was the list down. It said phase one. And we'll be curious to see what breaks today after this letter from Pam Bondi goes to Kash Patel.
I mean, you got to seize the evidence. It's like it's a raid in your house. They don't give you time to flush anything down the toilet, right? And here it's like, well, you need to go ahead and produce this, but you have so many hours to do it. It's like they're going, shredder.
Yeah. And they're sitting there, and that's been apparently the case too. A lot of folks have been mentioning that whistleblowers are coming out saying they are absolutely destroying evidence, which of course they are. They have to.
That's why when I wrote open letters to Trump, I said, President Trump, I said, look, you need to use SOCOM troops, go in there, military intelligence officers, and just go seize the evidence. Go seize it, put it in your hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bring in your most trusted troops and get it done.
And use Chinese thumb tortures if you have to.
Chinese thumb tortures?
Mm-hmm.
You mean one of them finger trap things?
Yeah, you put the thing and you put your foot and you yank and you can't get out.
Man.
And then you can't eat or nothing or wipe your behind if you got to go. And it's like a torture then, because then it causes severe constipation. Yeah, it's that's a Chinese thumb torture thing. You know about that, Stewart? Did they? No.
No. Another Marine Corps thing.
That's another right there, brother. Hey, you know how in the Air Force, you know how Marine says airplane?
No. I was worried I didn't have you on camera for that.
You like that one, Stewart?
Yeah, that's good.
It's pretty good, ain't it? I got a million of them.
Oh man. That's Mark Pruitt, ladies and gentlemen. And you're tuning into the Defiance Daily Show. Appreciate everybody for joining on. We still got a lot of viewers that are tuned in. Really appreciate the support. A lot of folks have been asking how they can support us. You can visit defiancepress.com. Check out our books. Check out our authors there. Supporting our authors helps support the broadcast, and in turn have guests on like Stewart Rhodes, who right now has no social media presence. I've
got a Rumble.
You've got a Rumble.
Yeah,
okay. Talk about your Rumble.
Yeah, it's okay, Stewart Rhodes. I still got to learn how to use it though, so that's nothing up here yet.
I can teach you some things.
Okay, Stewart Rhodes, Rumble.
Teach you some things.
And then I'll be on Truth Social. Try to start one tonight, in fact.
Yeah, I think, and if you're open for it, if we do some more interviews, we'll do some pre-recorded stuff, release it out, make sure people can see where they can find you, and
put some good graphics on for you.
Some good graphics on. We'll put some material out there, but that's defiancepress.com. Without your support, none of this is possible to have on these type of guests. And I know it's hard for a lot of folks. We had Eleanor Grayson on earlier for Common Ground, so people can go back to the beginning of the show if they need a little.
That'd be a good thing for people to just record that one segment, because when you're having a hard day, or if you're going to have to,
there you go, like a guided meditation.
Guided meditation,
like a guided.
Yes.
Man, I tell you, I'm planning on doing that like 3 or 4 times a day.
If you're triggered, you can go in a closet,
Because your aura, I'm telling you, right? Did you notice Stewart's aura after that started? It went from like a real red, like flaming red, to like a beautiful.
Does he have a blue shoe?
Yeah, got my plums down on my plums, Stewart. They're nice bluish hue.
That would be a good boy. Finish the plug here. That's defiancepress.com. Check out our books that are available on our website. Check out the merchandise. Also visit defiancedaily.com for the latest news and articles, and you can catch up with what we're reporting here.
Yes.
And none of this is possible without. I don't have the camera on Mama right there, but this is all started by.
Thank you, Rose.
By Pops. None of this is possible without David Thomas Roberts. Very proud to be his son. Very proud to be a part of this. Carry this legacy forward. I know he's wildly entertained by Stewart Rhodes' extremist presence at the Comanche Rose Ranch studio right now. So love you, Pops. We keep going here, and we ain't gonna stop. So
we shared some whiskey on a few occasions.
Oh yeah. You got to know my pop. Yeah, I got some interesting stories about old Pops getting approached by the FBI because Pops wanted to go and pay you a visit there while you're incarcerated to do some interviews with you, and apparently that's a no-no.
Oh, is that right?
That's a no-no.
He got a visit by the FBI?
He got a visit.
Yes.
Okay. But they're trying to tell, you're an influential member of the community. We just want to talk to you about some stuff.
Right.
That's trying to make you a cooperative witness kind of deal.
Well, intimidation too. Yeah, it's very common for them they'll send out FBI agents to visit, intimidate your support structure.
Oh yeah.
Any of your friends. They want you to be isolated alone.
Yeah. Well, Pops, he was very interested, and he wanted to do it because he couldn't help himself. He wanted to know. So if those of you are familiar with Joe Bannister and the IRS whistleblower back in the mid 2000s, he was represented by an attorney named Bob Bernhoff. Bob, if you're watching, we love you, man. Love some Bob Bernhoff. Bob Bernhoff is an attorney out of Austin, Texas, and he called him up, and him and Bob chewed the fat quite a bit. And Bob was curious too. He said, "Look, why don't you do it and just take me with you?" Right. And long story short, from that interview, and I'd like to have, Bob, if you're willing to come on.
Man, Bob needs to come on.
Bob be a good
Bob
guest.
Needs to come on.
But he talks about how that meeting went, and basically it ended up getting just shut down because it ended up going nowhere because it started talking about the text between you and Pops.
Yeah, these are much
entertaining. Entertaining text, by the way.
It goes back to shit talking. Anybody involved in politics is going to engage in shit talking.
Right.
And people, after a few whiskeys in particular, right? So you're sitting there chit-chatting, and they'll take that and it's like, look at this. They're talking about revolution.
Yeah.
You're making a joke about,
Oh, I know. The whole context of those who know my dad, I mean, you could go back through his text history and definitely make a case. I mean, like Stewart was saying earlier, you could do this with anybody.
Yeah.
But we got him, Dad. He's right here in studio with us.
Yeah,
and
baby.
We're doing a long interview with him today. Yeah. This is we've been going on a couple hours. Stewart,
it's long form.
How you doing over there, man? You doing good?
Long time.
We love you a long time. Look at Stewart, man.
He's flying the plane.
Oh, man, we too low. Being out.
Yeah, that's when it gets a little turbulent. That's when Captain Bing Bang Owl comes in there. He comes and he flies over the plane.
Bing Bang Owl.
Bing Bang Owl.
We too low.
Obviously, we are not a politically correct podcast.
Something wrong.
Something. Holy
fook.
By the way, that came from a legitimate our lovely news media. They took that and ran with it. They got that was for real. I think okay, Mom's got to see it, so I got to play it now. I couldn't either. I couldn't.
Oh, yeah, he's got to.
Well, folks, we're gonna take a little break here for a hot second.
Teeth are floating.
Yeah, we're gonna. So stay tuned for some more. I'll queue up some videos for everybody's pleasurable entertainment, and we'll come back with some more Stewart Rhodes. You're watching the Defiance Daily Show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be right back.
That's what I'm talking
after
about.
These bathroom break messages.